What's up, guys? Back in the garage again. So I'm going to continue working on this Datsun right here. As you can tell, I got the front end all together. It's coming along great. I couldn't be more happy. Once I put the halos in by themselves, I was like questioning it. I was like, man, I don't know if I'm digging it or not. But now that I got the front end together, I'm digging it, man. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's going to work out just fine. So today what I got going on is I'm going to be wiring up the HIDs. I got these ballasts right here that I'm going to get mounted up in here. The vehicle's not going to be driven in the rain or anything like that. It's going to be a, a nice weekend cruiser. So I'm going to mount it up in there and get the stock harness, which is right here. I'm going to trim it down, solder it up, get the wiring rewrapped, make it look fresh, and then route it to the appropriate connections right here and right there. So I'm going to be routing it through here using the factory holders and tuck it in, make it look nice and neat and factory for the halos. That's what these wires are here for. So I'm probably gonna route wiring all the way through here, all the way through the back, following the factory harness all the way up through to the inside of the car, and then I'm gonna put a toggle switch on it. That way he can just flip the switch and activate his HIDs if he wants. That's pretty much the plan. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing done. It's just a little tedious stuff. Just here every day, I'm working a lot, but every day make progress. Progress is good. One less thing you got to do on the vehicle. And once I get the little tiny shit like that done, then I'll start hammering away on the main thing, which is getting the motor running. So let's get this thing going. So I got the markings right there for where I'm gonna make my drills, and then I'm just gonna wrap some zip tie around it to hold it. Then I think that should be adequate. Just put some zip ties on it, make sure it's held in place nice and securely, and then that'll give me the perfect place right here where this connector can be made to the factory connector, like right here, and then I'll route it up through where the factory harness should go. So I got them nice and secured over there into the front of the fenders, right where the headlight buckets are. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my lengths for the stock wiring harness. Strip the plastic off of it and solder it to length and wrap it up. What you eating, Joseph? It's one of your favorite foods?
No.
What's your favorite food, Joseph? Why you covering, dog? Why you covering? What's your favorite food? What? Weenies! That boy's always putting weenies in his mouth. Every time I turn around, he's eating weenies or sausage. I don't know what's wrong with that. I don't know. So for those of you who don't know how to solder, it's a pretty easy process. I already got the wires cut to length. This one right here is going to be the driver's side. This one right here is going to be the passenger side. And this right here is what you need to make a weatherproof seal. It's called shrink wrap. It comes in different sizes. Basically, you put it over the joint you solder and you heat it up and it shrinks. So you need a soldering iron. These are cheap, you can get them wherever, Harbor Freight, wherever. And solder's sold at, you know, all your auto parts stores, or you can get them at Harbor Freight. So it's pretty easy. First you start off right here, you're just gonna tin your tip, just like so. And then what you gotta do, I like to spread these out a little bit. I use the base as its own stand. And what you want to do is tin the tips. That's what they call it, tinning the tips. You just heat it up, get it hot, and then you spread the love. I like to leave a little bit of a blob on it so whenever I go to solder them together, I got adequate solder on both sides for it to join. In the tip. Just like that. Pretty easy. Now we're going to move on to this side. I do twist the ends of the wires. That keeps it from fraying. They call that bird caging. That's pretty much what I like to do. I like using the stand right here as a jig to hold my wires. So get it right there. Get this set. There we go. Now the tips are tinned. You notice I already have the heat shrink cut and tucked down. You don't want to get these hot, they will shrink on you, so you tuck them away out the way. But they have to be on there when you solder the joint so you can slide them over and make the seal. See if I can get this with one hand. Remember I said I like to leave a blob? This is the reason why. I run into this a lot with my doing this a lot with just by myself. You know, it's nice to have an extra person, you know, you can have hold the ends together, but since I don't have somebody, it's a good way to explain it. Go ahead and tip is kind of gone on this from all the times I've used this. See how I had that blob on there? Blow on it just to help it dry off or cool off, and once it cools it creates a seal. You see, that's a pretty good solder joint right there. You know, you got adequate solder on both sides. You don't have to worry about that ever coming undone or not having a good connection because of lack of solder. That's a pretty good deal right there. Let me grab my lighter. Just like to cover it up. Like that. Use my lighter. Use the blue flame. Just rotate it a little bit. Just like to touch the ends, make sure that it's secured on both sides. And there you have it. That is a pretty good connection right there. You don't ever have to worry about it. I mean, it's solid. Pulling on it won't make it come undone like a butt splice. so pretty good deal. Okay, so now that you guys know how to solder, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish this off, and I'll get back to you when it's done. All right guys, I got it all finished up. So this is what it looks like in the end. I put a factory loom over it just to give it that OEM look. I just sealed the ends with some electrical tape. I put a ring around the center with electrical tape, and on the end, just to give it an extra little protection. But these are all now these are all now cut to length, and I'll put them on the car, and it should look really good. All right, so I had to chop off the little plastic weatherproof sleeves on them because of over 40 years of weather and everything. They were like plastic. They weren't even pliable. I couldn't get the connector to even fit in there, so I chopped them off. No big deal. So here it is right here. Goes in, follows the factory routing. It's clamped down, and I got it right here plugged into the HID ballast. Everything looks pretty good on it. Grab my flashlight. As you can tell, it's not a bad setup. Looks pretty good. Just tuck it up a little bit, and it's good to go, man. So now I'm gonna have to do the HID wiring. There's two connectors right here. The kit came with some wires, but the wires are a little they're a little short. They're not gonna be long enough to go all the way to the cabin, so I'm gonna have to extend those. I don't know if I'm gonna do those today or not. I'm also gonna get some rubber, because I have to cut these out in order to fit the ballast through them. And it's such thin metal, when I used the hole saw, it just ripped them. So I'm gonna end up getting some liquid rubber, throw a little bit of electrical tape across it, and then put liquid rubber over it and let it harden. And that'll give me the protection I need on the back side of it. Not that it really needs it, but because the HID is enclosed and weatherproof already, but just to give it that added, that added touch. I think I'm gonna switch gears to doing the alternator mod. On the alternator, it has a self-regulating alternator in the car, but the car itself has a mechanical regulator, and you have to alter the wiring harness. The lift down. You have to alter the wiring harness and to set it up to where the self-regulation is going to happen in the alternator and not the mechanical unit. If you have it wired up how it is from the factory, it's not going to work with the alternator. The alternator is not going to self-regulate. Pretty much you'll have two regulators fighting each other. So here's the mechanical regulator. There's the connector for that. Basically all I got to do is I'm going to take this out. I'm going to chop this connector. I'm going to jumper a couple wires and add in a diode and just heat shrink it up and make it look factory. And the self-regulation is going to happen inside the alternator itself. Looking back and forth at the alternator, and it being a mix between generations on the Datsun. This engine is out of an 83 Datsun. Well, at that point it was Nissan 280ZX, and the alternator is from the same vehicle, the 83. The 240Z Datsun, first generation, everything's pretty much mechanical on it, including the alternator, so we definitely don't want that. And the alternators that come on the later models, they put out more amperage, and that's what we want, since we're adding more accessories than what it came with from the factory back in '72. Alright, so like I said before, I'm going to be doing the jumper connections on the mechanical regulator to the harness that connects to the alternator. And what I have here is a schematic on how to do so. If you look right here, you got the black white is going to jumper with a diode to the white black, and then your yellow is going to jumper to the white. And on the male connector, the colors are just slightly different on one of the jumper leads. The black white is black white, but the white blue turns out to be the black white. So what I did was I just labeled it here so I don't forget. White black right here, that's what that means. And then I drew a line with a D in the middle that signifies the diode. You just, whenever you wire this up here, you have to make sure that the diode has the line mark on the white and black lead, because they are specific to the way they mount. And basically what that means is on this right here, you have that line mark on the front side of the arrow. That's the line mark you have to worry about. Some people like to twist these together. Sometimes I do that, but I just kind of like the clean look of them being put side by side, and I connect it with solder. As you can tell, it's definitely connected. And now I'm just going to heat shrink it on. There you have it. Nice little butt connector. Okay, so the way a diode is, a diode's just basically a check valve. It allows current to go one way but not the other. Right now I have it set up, I got 0. That tells me it is reverse bias and it's doing its job. I'll flip it the other way around. So with it flipped the other way around, I'm reading the 0.371 volts, and that's how much volts it takes to break through the barrier when it is forward bias, they call it. That's the position that you have it wired up to allow the voltage to flow through the diode. And there's silicon in there, 2 different types of silicon, and it takes about 0.3 to 0.51 volts to break the barrier, they call it. So just doing that tells me that my connection's good, it's solid, nothing's shorted, and it'll work just fine. So I'll call that a success. Just tuck that in right there. Out the way. Now my self-regulating alternator is going to self-regulate, and I don't have to worry about that. Pretty much a quick, easy fix. Don't have to go all extravagant buying no plug kit. There's some companies that sell a plug kit, and that's basically what you're paying for. You're paying for 2 wires to be jumpered, and a diode placed between the other jumper. So I think that's all I'm going to do for tonight. I got work in the morning and I got things to do. I got daddy responsibilities to take care of. So with that being said, thank you guys who have subscribed already, the few. Thank you guys. Watch my videos. I try to keep it nice and informative. And for those of you just watching it hadn't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I got a lot of cool stuff coming your way. So like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next episode.